This programme was first transmitted by the BBC in April of 1968 in the 24 hours slot, which is now occupied by the Newsnight programme. It's called Japanese Student Riots. Now, I first visited Japan a very long time ago when I was doing my national service. I'd been posted to Korea with my battalion. But when I got there, they discovered that I was not yet 19. You had to be 19 in order to enter an active service zone. So I was sent on to Japan to mature, which I did very pleasantly for several months at the British Commonwealth Battle School, making a great deal of noise in the middle of the beautiful and peaceful Japanese countryside. Now, when I returned to Japan 15 years later, in the 1960s, that was, of course, the decade of student unrest all over the world. Students were rioting largely about the American presence in Vietnam and about the heavy casualties being caused by US bombing of North Vietnam. And of course, the Japanese students, who had traditionally been very passive, they'd been deferential, they'd been very respectful of their professors and their teachers. But that changed somewhat in the 1960s. Indeed, there was one group called the Zengakuren who even kidnapped their professors and put them on trial. I went to do a report on the Zengakuren, and they had grievances not only about the Vietnam War, but about another American fact of life for them, and that was something called the US-Japan Security Treaty of 1951. Now, according to that treaty, the United States had been given the rights to establish huge military bases all over Japan, including almost the whole of the island of Okinawa. And the Zengakuren, the student movement, they didn't like that at all, and they'd taken to the streets to make their views clear. Well, this was my report about their activities. We'll see what you think.
Student protest takes many forms the world over. This is student protest Japanese style, the work of the Zengakuren. The world first heard of the Zengakuren in 1960, when they took to the streets in Tokyo, and by their activities managed to discourage President Eisenhower from making his visit to Japan. Later, they also forced the resignation of Prime Minister Kishi. It was last year that they returned to the streets once again. And this time, if anything, their activities are even more violent than they were in 1960. Last year, more than 1,000 were arrested. Already in the first 12 weeks of this year, 1,200 have been arrested. And it looks as if a good many more are going to be arrested today.
Make no doubt, when the helmeted platoons of the Zengakuren set out with their staves and stones, they are going to war. Their one objective is to fight the Kidotai, the riot police, the representatives of established order. This is the third time in 5 weeks that they've battled here at Narita, 20 miles from Tokyo. They claim that they're fighting to support local farmers who oppose the construction of a new Tokyo International Airport. The building under siege is the local headquarters of the airport authority. But at the rally that preceded the fray, the speeches indicated that the Zengakuren is concerned with something other than peasant discontent. The student leaders claim that the new airport has nothing to do with the needs of the jumbo jet age, that in reality it's a plot to provide another base for American imperialist warplanes, that it's closely connected with the imperialist ambitions of the Japanese ruling class to dominate Southeast Asia. There is little logic in these arguments, But then the speaker, Mr. Katsuyuki Akiyama, leader of the most militant Zengakuren faction, is no student of logic. In fact, he is not a student at all. Though he left Yokohama University some time ago, he continues to give his undivided attention to student struggle. His efforts so far have earned him 30 arrests, 8 spells in jail and £500 in fines. They have not earned him the undivided loyalty of his followers. The Zengakuren, the All-Japan Federation of Student Self-Government Associations, is gravely disunited. It was founded in 1948 to fight genuine student grievances. Initially, it was taken over by the communists, but now they have lost control of at least a third of the 700,000 members. The two principal breakaway groups, the Samporengo and the Kakamaru, are both represented here. Both groups pour ridicule on the Communist Party's hopes of a peaceful revolution in Japan and call for armed struggle. Both deny any allegiance to Moscow or Peking or Hanoi. Both claim to follow the teachings of Marx, Trotsky and Che Guevara. Both have been condemned by the local communists who are worried about their own image as professional gangsters. And both believe, of course, that they and only they are the fountainhead of the true revolution. But despite their internal feuding, both groups have been increasing their membership. Their slogans, their flags, their taste for violence clearly appeals to a section of Japanese youth today. But so far, only to a small section. In the assembly hall of Tokyo's Waseda University, they gather for the ceremony that begins their 4 years of higher education. As proud parents look on, they take their seats in an institution that can guarantee their future, so long as they don't try to buck the system. Of course, that's true of countries other than Japan. But here, where competition is so acute, it's much harder to break the rules, to succeed outside the hierarchy without the right diplomas. So at the moment, they tend to be highly conformist young people. They've played the game according to the rules, and so far they've won. Yet before they graduate from Waseda 4 years from now, some of these conventional souls will have learned to defy authority, on and off the campus. This year, graduation at the prestigious University of Tokyo was not quite like other years. True, the girls dressed up in their best kimonos and posed for the usual fraternity snaps. True, the students did receive that precious document, the degree, but they received it without the usual pomp. Disgruntled medical students, demonstrating outside the assembly hall, refused to allow the graduation ceremony to take place. They were protesting on behalf of a classmate dismissed for kidnapping a teacher in an earlier protest against the faculty administration. Talks with the authorities are at stalemate, and judging from their tactics and their banners, the students are taking their leadership from the Zengakuren. In Japan's 820 seats of higher learning, similar angry clashes between students and university authorities show a startling increase. In Japan, as in the rest of the world, educationalists and social scientists are anxiously seeking the causes of unrest. Many here point an accusing finger at a society that demands a university degree but makes it so hard to get. These are the scenes outside the examination schools as anxious parents support their young in a competition that will be decisive in their lives. Many children will need psychiatric help when it's all over. But once the student has passed these exams, the battle is over. On completing 4 years' study, a degree is virtually guaranteed. And so, when students finally enter their university, with no vital exams ahead of them, they find themselves without direction or purpose. Some inevitably find their feet in the ranks of the Zengakuren, where the slogans, the solidarity, and the sense of mission fill the spiritual vacuum. It's this, in part, that gives the Zengakuren its strength and appeal. Last October, when the students fought at Tokyo Airport, in an effort to stop Prime Minister Sato's visit to Vietnam, the Japanese public was taken aback by the ferocious single-mindedness of the demonstrators and by their willingness to take punishment. The Zengakuren clearly realized the value of martyrs. Moreover, in their selection of targets, they've successfully mobilized the country's pacifist, anti-Vietnam War, anti-American feeling. Because the Japanese are concerned about the future of US bases here. They are concerned about the US occupation of Okinawa. And the Zengakuren knows it. Every stone they throw is aimed, above all, at preventing the renewal of the US-Japan Security Treaty 2 years from now.
The Zengakuren are busy looking for new causes. new places in which to focus their anti-American activities. The latest is the proposed American hospital here at OBE. This hospital is due to open within a few weeks. Now, there had been a certain amount of local hostility towards the idea, partly because the local inhabitants were afraid that the noise of helicopters would disturb them, and partly because, quite irrationally, they were afraid that the troops being brought in from Vietnam would bring with them terrible epidemics and diseases. However irrational this thinking may have been, the Zengakuren have been busy inflaming local feeling, and this evening they've organised one of their typical demonstrations. Unfortunately for them, it's not an ideal area for carrying on this kind of street warfare. The roads are extremely narrow, and the police so far have successfully managed to isolate them into small groups. And where they have come into contact with the police, the Zengakuren have been pretty severely blooded. As darkness falls, one imagines they'll be adopting other and probably more sinister tactics.
A police car is burned. 100 students are arrested. 40 people, including innocent passers-by, need hospital treatment. The following day, the grim-faced shock troops are back again. This time, 70 are arrested, 79 injured. And so, with ever-increasing regularity, the pattern repeats itself.
The Japanese press, which is a fair reflection of moderate Japanese opinion, has been showing increasing abhorrence with the Zengakuren and its methods in recent weeks, and there's increasing pressure on the government to do something to stop the Zengakuren in its violent activities. But there's not very much that the government can do unless it uses its anti-subversion laws. This it's understandably reluctant to do in case it should be accused of being dictatorial and repressive. Mr. Akiyama, who's speaking up there on the platform, raising the rabble, doesn't give many interviews to the press, but I did manage to get into his headquarters and talk to him for a short time the other day. Through an interpreter, he told me that if the government did use their anti-subversion laws, he felt that it would be to his advantage. He felt that it would increase public sympathy for his cause, and he would therefore welcome it. He said it certainly wouldn't put a stop to his activities. So it seems that Japan can look forward to a lively time. Certainly until something has been decided about the US-Japan Security Treaty, and that's not until 1970.